What if I told you that time travel might be more than just science fiction? Throughout history, there have been bizarre cases of people who seem to have stepped out of time. Some appearing from the past, others vanishing into the future. Could these stories be proof of time travel, or just eerie coincidences? Buckle up as we count down the top 5 most mysterious time-traveling events that will leave you questioning reality. Let's dive in. Moberly Jourdain Incident. August 10, 1901. 2 English women, and Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, set off on a casual visit to the Palace of Versailles, one of the most famous landmarks in France. They weren't your average tourists. Moberly was the principal of St. Hugh's College, Oxford, and Jourdain, her soon-to-be vice principal, was an expert in history and literature. While exploring the vast gardens of the palace, they decided to visit the Petit Trianon, a small chateau that once belonged to Marie Antoinette. But as they wandered through the gardens, something felt off. They found themselves lost, unable to find the path to the Petit Trianon. That's when things started to get really strange. As they walked along a shaded pathway, an uneasy feeling settled over them. The atmosphere changed. The air felt heavier, oppressive, like stepping into a different world. They began noticing people dressed in strange, outdated clothing, men in tricorn hats, long coats, and women in bonnets and old-fashioned dresses. At first, they assumed there was some kind of historical reenactment happening. But no one acknowledged them. No one spoke to them. The figures seemed distant, almost unreal. One man, described as having a ghastly, pockmarked face, sat on the steps of a small pavilion. He gave them a chilling look, but said nothing. Another man, dressed in a dark cloak, suddenly appeared and wordlessly motioned for them to take a different path. Confused but uneasy, they followed. And then, they saw her, a woman in a pale dress, sitting on the grass, sketching. Her clothes were unmistakably 18th century. Her expression was distant, as if she were unaware of her surroundings. Later, Moberly would claim that she believed the woman was none other than Marie Antoinette herself. Suddenly, the strange, dreamlike atmosphere vanished. The noise of the modern world returned. People dressed in contemporary clothing appeared around them once more. The spell was broken. Moberly and Jourdain exchanged bewildered glances. Had they just witnessed ghosts? Had they stepped through time? It wasn't until a year later that they spoke about what had happened. Determined to make sense of the experience, they returned to Versailles. But this time, everything was different. The paths they had taken no longer seemed to exist. The pavilion with the pockmarked man? Gone. It was as if they had walked into a place that no longer existed. Moberly and Jourdain documented their experience in a book titled An Adventure, published in 1911. But their story sparked intense debate. Was it real, or simply a trick of the mind? A shared hallucination? Some skeptics argue that the 2 women, both deeply interested in history, subconsciously created the experience due to their expectations. A ghostly encounter? Could Versailles be home to the lingering spirits of those who once lived there? Many visitors have reported strange sightings over the years. A time slip? The most fascinating theory is that Moberly and Jourdain actually slipped through time, briefly experiencing Versailles as it was over a century before. Time slips are a real phenomenon reported all over the world, where people claim to have suddenly found themselves in the past. Could the Moberly-Jourdain incident be one of the most compelling cases of this phenomenon? So, what do you think? Did these women genuinely experience a window into the past? Or was it all just a mix of imagination and coincidence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Rudolph Fentz, 1950. Our story begins on a warm summer night in June 1950. A man in his late 20s or early 30s suddenly appears in the middle of Times Square, New York. Witnesses recall that he was dressed oddly. His clothes looked brand new but out of fashion, like something straight out of the late 19th century. A long coat, a high-collared shirt, checkered trousers, and a top hat. He seemed lost, overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of modern New York. And before he could make sense of it all, tragedy struck. He was hit by a car while crossing the street, and tragically, he didn't survive. But that's where things take a strange turn. When police searched his body, what they found made no sense. He was carrying old coins, completely outdated currency that had no value in 1950. A business card from an unknown company. A letter sent to an address in 1876. And yet, none of these items showed any signs of wear, almost as if they were brand new. The authorities were baffled. Who was this man? Where did he come from? And why was he dressed like someone from the 1870s? Desperate for answers, police turned to the address found on the letter. They searched city records and discovered something shocking. Rudolph Fentz was a real person. But according to historical documents, he had gone missing in 1876, never to be seen again. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. Until now, there was no trace of him in the modern world. No records, no family connections. The fingerprints didn't match any database. It was as if he had stepped straight out of time. And the strangest part? His personal items were all in pristine condition, as if they had never aged a day since 1876. So what happened to Rudolph Fentz? Some believe he was a victim of spontaneous time travel, that somehow he fell through a rift in time and landed in 1950 New York. The perfect case of accidental time displacement. Others suggest he was a ghost, a spirit trapped between two worlds. But skeptics had a different theory. They believed the story was an urban legend, nothing more than a well-crafted hoax. Many investigators over the years tried to find the origins of the tale, and some claim it first appeared in a science fiction short story published in the 1950s. But does that mean the entire event was fabricated? Or could the fiction have been inspired by real, forgotten events? That's where things get even stranger. Some records of the story existed before the alleged sci-fi tale was published, leading some to speculate that there might be some truth to the legend. Whether fact or fiction, the story of Rudolph Fentz has fascinated researchers, skeptics, and time travel enthusiasts for decades. It has been referenced in books, movies, and even academic discussions on the possibility of time slips. But the question remains, if time travel were possible, would it look like this? Would someone from the past suddenly appear in our world, dazed and confused, carrying objects that make no sense? If so, could there be others like Rudolph Fentz, lost in time, waiting to be discovered? What do you think? Was Rudolph Fentz a real-life time traveler, or just an elaborate urban legend? Let me know in the comments. The Man from Taured, 1954. It was just another summer day in Tokyo. Immigration officers at Haneda Airport processed hundreds of travelers, their passports stamped with routine efficiency. But then came a man, an ordinary-looking businessman, who handed over his passport with quiet confidence. At first glance, his passport seemed normal. Stamps from various countries confirmed his international travels. The quality was professional, indistinguishable from any other legitimate document. But then, the officer noticed something strange. Taured, a country that didn't and still doesn't exist. The traveler, who spoke fluent French and Japanese, was just as confused as the officials. He claimed Taured was a real country, situated between France and Spain. In fact, he had visited Japan several times before without issue. When shown a map, he became visibly frustrated. Taured had existed for over 1,000 years, he insisted. And yet, in our reality, no such nation had ever been recorded. His documents were an enigma, authentic in every way, yet bearing the name of a non-existent country. Even his bank checks were issued by an institution unknown to the world. And yet, his company, he claimed, was real. A call to the company he claimed to work for resulted in more confusion. It simply did not exist. Neither did his supposed hotel reservation. It was as if he had materialized out of thin air, a traveler from an unknown dimension. With no clear answers, Japanese officials decided to detain him overnight in a secure hotel room. 2 armed guards were stationed outside. But by morning, the man from Taured was gone. No trace of him remained. His documents had vanished. His presence was erased as if he had never been there at all. Authorities searched for him, but there was nothing. No sign of escape, no clue as to how he had disappeared. So, who was the man from Taured? And where did he go? Over the years, theories have emerged. Some believe he was a visitor from an alternate reality, a world where Taured does exist, and where he simply slipped into our timeline by accident. Others think he was a time traveler, caught between past and future. Skeptics argue the entire event is an urban legend, a fabrication with no official documentation. Indeed, no solid evidence of the event has ever surfaced. But still, the mystery endures. Whether real or myth, the story of the man from Taured continues to captivate and perplex. If true, it raises a terrifying question. How many travelers slip between realities? Unnoticed? John Titor, 2000 to 2001. John Titor first appeared on online forums in late 2000. Specifically, the Time Travel Institute and Art Bell's Post 2 post forum. His messages were detailed, complex, and, most of all, strangely believable. Titor claimed to be a soldier from 2036, sent on a mission to retrieve an IBM 5100 computer from 1975. Why? Because, according to him, this old machine contained a unique ability to debug legacy computer code, something that would become crucial in his timeline. But that was just the beginning. Titor painted a grim picture of the future. A second American Civil War breaking out in 2004, leading to a full-blown World War III in 2015. He described a fractured United States, nuclear devastation, and a drastically different way of life. Some people dismissed it as fiction, but others started seeing eerie coincidences. So, how accurate were Titor's predictions? Let's break them down. First, the American Civil War. According to Titor, by 2004, the United States would be divided into warring factions. Did that happen? Not exactly. But in hindsight, with political and social divisions growing wider, some believe he wasn't entirely wrong, just off by a few years. Then World War III. He claimed it would begin in 2015, initiated by Russia with nuclear strikes against the US, China, and Europe. Well, that never happened. But again, rising tensions between Russia, NATO, and the world today make his warnings feel unsettlingly close. And then there's the IBM 5100. This is where things get weird. Titor said the computer had a secret function unknown to the public in 2000, but later, IBM engineers confirmed that it did, in fact, have a unique debugging ability. How did he know that? Coincidence? Lucky guess? Or something more? Despite his disappearance in 2001, Titor's legend lives on. But who was he really? Let's look at some theories. Theory 1. He was an elaborate hoax created by a group of pranksters, possibly with deep knowledge of physics and computing. Titor's science was compelling, but there were inconsistencies. His timeline didn't match up, and his predictions were vague enough to be reinterpreted. It was a well-crafted hoax. Theory 2, he was part of a government psychological experiment, testing how people react to time travel narratives. Could he have been an early social media experiment? Theory 3, he was telling the truth. Some believers argue that his mission was real, and that we exist in a different timeline because of the changes he made. This would explain why some predictions didn't come true. But without definitive proof, John Titor remains one of the greatest mysteries of the internet age. Was John Titor a hoaxer, a government experiment, or a genuine time traveler? Maybe we'll never know, but his story continues to fascinate, even decades later. And who knows, maybe somewhere out there he's watching us right now. What do you think? Was John Titor real? Let us know in the comments. The Philadelphia Experiment, 1943, October 28, 1943. A day shrouded in secrecy, mystery, and possibly a terrifying scientific breakthrough. What if I told you that the U.S. Navy once attempted to make a warship completely invisible, and that it may have led to one of the most horrifying incidents in military history? This is the strange and controversial story of the Philadelphia Experiment. Before we dive into the bizarre events of that fateful day, let's set the stage. The year was 1943. World War II was raging, and military scientists were desperate to gain the upper hand. The U.S. Navy was experimenting with new technology, some say, inspired by Albert Einstein's unified field theory, to render their ships invisible to enemy radar, and perhaps even to the naked eye. The experiment allegedly took place at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. The target? The USS Eldridge, a newly commissioned Navy destroyer escort. Under the top-secret initiative known as Project Rainbow, powerful electromagnetic fields were used in an attempt to bend light and radio waves around the ship, making it invisible. Sounds like science fiction, right? But what happened next is even stranger. Eyewitnesses claim that on the morning of October 28th, the USS Eldridge was enveloped in an eerie greenish-blue mist. Within seconds, the entire ship vanished from sight, completely gone. Some reports say it teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, over 200 miles away, before reappearing back in Philadelphia just minutes later. But when it returned, something had gone terribly, terribly wrong. Survivors, if they can even be called that, told horrifying stories. Some crew members were found fused into the metal walls of the ship, their bodies grotesquely embedded in the structure. Others had vanished completely, never to be seen again. Some were driven insane, ranting incoherently about other dimensions and losing time. One sailor is even said to have vanished in front of a bar full of witnesses years later, never to return. The U.S. Navy has consistently denied that the Philadelphia experiment ever took place. Official records claim the USS Eldridge was never in Philadelphia at the time and that no such experiment occurred. Skeptics argue that the story was either a hoax or a gross exaggeration. But if that's the case, where did these terrifying stories come from? The legend largely stems from a man named Carl Allen, also known as Carlos Allende. In the 1950s, Allen sent letters to a researcher named Morris K. Jessup, claiming to have witnessed the experiment firsthand. He described the ship's disappearance and the gruesome aftermath in chilling detail. But was he telling the truth? Or was he just another conspiracy theorist with an overactive imagination? Whether real or a fabrication, the Philadelphia experiment has left a lasting mark on popular culture. It's inspired movies, books, and TV shows, fueling our fascination with secret government projects, time travel, and parallel dimensions. Could something like this actually have happened? And if so, what else is the government hiding? The truth about the Philadelphia experiment may never be fully known. Was it a wartime experiment gone horribly wrong? A hoax that got out of hand? Or something even more mysterious? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Time travel, fact or fiction? Whether these stories are real or just urban legends, they continue to spark curiosity and debate. Do you think time travel is possible? Have you heard of any other strange cases? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on more mind-bending mysteries. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious.